Alrighty. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the BNSF Railway online webinar. Thank you for sending in your email addresses, and hopefully you found the link by now and you're able to view us. And if not, then you'll be able to do so on YouTube here shortly after the broadcast. My name is Caleb Robertson. I am one of two military recruiting managers here at BNSF Railway. And I'm joined here by John Wesley, who is also one of our military recruiting managers here at BNSF. So it's a team effort here. Two full-time military recruiters working at BNSF, ensuring that individuals much like yourself have every available opportunity to find a career here at BNSF following your military service. So a little bit about myself. I spent some time in the Navy. About 7-8 years, followed by I got commissioned in the Marine Corps and served as an officer in the Marine Corps Reserves and still do so to this day. So about 12-13 years of military experience together combined between those two services, and then I worked here for about 2 years.
And as Caleb said, thank all of y'all for joining us today. My name is John Wesley. Like Caleb said, we're two military recruiters here at BNSF Railway. And just a little bit about myself. I spent about 22 years in the Army as a first sergeant combat engineer. Retired about 7 years ago, and then I joined BNSF Railway as a mechanical foreman, experienced first line supervisor, one of the positions that we're here to talk about today. And then transitioned on to corporate headquarters here in Fort Worth, Texas, as a military recruiter. So that's just a little bit about me.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through some informational slides, going to show you guys some charts and graphs and just kind of introduce you to who BNSF is. I'm guessing if you responded that you wanted to attend the webinar, that maybe you had somewhat of an idea, maybe even a good idea of who BNSF is and what we do. But we're just going to introduce the company to everybody as a whole, kind of give you that 30,000-foot view on what we do as a corporation. And then what we'll do is we'll dive into the specific position that we're looking to hire for right now, which is the Experienced First Line Supervisor program.
I do want to point out a couple of things as we go throughout this this presentation. There's an opportunity for you to ask us questions. You should see that tab. Mm-hmm. Feel free to chime in. Your question, once you type it in, will pop up, and we will try to address all of the questions that come across us. We already have a couple of questions thus far, and we'll get into those questions. So by all means, don't hesitate to send us your questions, and we'll get them answered for you.
Yeah, just type them in there. There should be a blue Q&A little box where you can click on, type in your questions. Like John said, we already have two that we're saving to answer at the end of the broadcast, and we'll answer them right here live so everybody can hear and share in the answer. Because if one person has a question, then I'm sure a lot of other people probably have similar questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no such thing as, hey, I don't know if I want to really ask this question, or it's a stupid question. All questions are great questions. And like Caleb said, undoubtedly somebody has the very same question. So make sure you ask us. Now is the time where you got the recruiters right in front of you.
Yeah, and this is exciting. This is the first time we've ever done one of these live webinars. Hopefully it goes well. Give us your feedback afterwards. You have the email address that you emailed us on to get the link to the event. So make sure and give us some feedback on what you thought was valuable, what you thought was maybe could be changed or improved upon, so the next one will be even better. Because this is all about just sharing information with you, making sure that you leave here educated on what career opportunities exist, how to go about applying for them, and what the best opportunity for you would be at BNSF. So. Okay. Yeah, so without any more hesitation, what we're going to do now is we're going to do a share screen. We're going to show you a couple PowerPoint presentations or a couple PowerPoint slides that'll kind of better introduce you to the company, and we'll be talking through those as you see them on the screen. Alrighty, so first and foremost, BNSF, where do we operate? Kind of like what I alluded to a couple of minutes ago, we are one of the largest Class 1 railroads in the entire country. And what that means is that we cover about 32,500 miles of track across the western 28 states of the U.S. So really, just like the map kind of shows, if you take a look at a map of the country, you look at about where the Mississippi River is. Everything west of the Mississippi, we have operations in all 28 states west of the Mississippi. So what does that mean for a potential candidate? Well, it means that you have an opportunity to work in any and all of those locations. We're not just a company that's solely located in a couple of different geographical regions or areas, but as you can see by the map, we're located in a number of different cities and towns across the U.S. So some pretty expansive operations. We have about 47,000 employees, and like I said, 32,000 plus miles of track. So a pretty large territory that we cover with a lot of opportunities for anyone that's interested.
Yeah, and another great point about this slide is it gives you that opportunity to kind of think about all of the things that transitioning service members think about. Another great thing about this whole process is that you're looking at two people who have went through the transition process just like you're getting ready to go through or have already went through. So, again, 28 states, 3 Canadian provinces, and really now is the time for you to start figuring out, what are the 2 or 3 locations that I might be available or looking at or open to relocating to, because after you have already applied is really not the time. And I think another important point to point out here is that when you look at positions on our website, each position is going to tell you right then and there in that posting the name of that job and the city, state, location of that particular posting. With some exceptions, and we'll talk. EFLS, the Experienced First Line Supervisor program, is one of those. But we'll talk about that. But in general, most of the positions do have the city, state, location.
Right, most definitely. So next is just some introductory information about who BNSF is. Back in 2010, we were purchased by a company and became a subsidiary of a company called Berkshire Hathaway, which, if you're familiar, is operated by a gentleman named Warren Buffett. So we became a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway, and Berkshire Hathaway is a family of companies together, which they comprise the 5th largest company in the U.S. So we're right up there in like company with some of the most well-known companies in the country: Apple, Exxon, Microsoft, Google, Walmart, General Electric. So we're right up there in good company with all those very well-known, very reputable companies that you probably are very familiar with.
So when you talk about BNSF Railway, really what's very unique and very important about our railroad is that we don't have all of our eggs in one basket, I like to put it. We really divide our business up into 4 major business groups: industrial products, consumer products, coal, and agriculture. And all of these different departments are things that you and I and our families deal with on a daily basis. So, when we talk about industrial products, all of those things that it takes, to build our homes, to build the United States, if you will. Consumer products, all of the things that we find when we go, to Walmart and go shopping, things we shop for. Coal is obvious, we run, the cleanest coal out of the Powder River Basin that any organization really runs. And then agriculture, all of our food, our grain, and so on and so forth. So we're not just an organization that has we just haul freight. We just, deal with one commodity. We're diversified. So that's really, really important to think about.
Yeah, it's definitely good to think about it in terms of, security as a company, because, the economy changes, the economy goes up and goes down, and different sectors of the economy change. And it's good to touch different major sectors of the economy, because if maybe one of those products aren't moving as much, most likely some of the others are moving more so than average. So it's a balancing act. And for a potential employee, what that means is just more security on your end. We're involved in a number of different types of businesses. So we're not just tied to one specific thing, one specific commodity. So that's a little bit more security as a business, and then as that all of our employees enjoy as well.
Okay, so we're going to take a deeper dive into the Experienced First Line Supervisor program. And what's important about this program that I like to point out, while recruiting is this. Most service members who are, generally E5s and above, or have had some leadership, experience coming from any branch of the service, one of the first things we look for when we start job searching, or we look on an organization's website, is we look for something that says management. We look for something that says leadership. And we have all of that at BNSF Railway, but we especially want you to ensure that you're applying for the correct positions. There's a couple of different types of leadership positions that you will see when you look at BNSF Railway's website. One of them is the Management Trainee and Intern program. We get a lot of us leaders from the military that the first thing we apply for is that, the Management Trainee and Intern. Well, that program is particularly filled by recent college grads who are very new to any workforce. So generally, this is going to be their first job. And there's still some leadership stuff that we need to teach them as an organization. So that is not you. And then you're going to see some upper level management stuff at BNSF Railway. And generally, you'll know not to apply for that, because 9 times out of 10, you won't even know what those jobs are. But where we tend to fit, generally E5s and above, the occasional corporals with at least 3 years of supervisory experience, we fit in the Experienced First Line Supervisor program. Now, this is a program especially meant for those leaders who we definitely understand it. We don't expect for you to know railroading. We don't generally expect for you to know anything about, managing the workforce from this particular, organization or this particular field. But what we do understand and know is that you're no stranger to leadership. You're no stranger to safety and safe operations and production and all of those things that come along with, making a great organization. So we created this program generally twice a year we hire for the Experienced First Line Supervisor. So it's for, once again, it's for leaders from the military and other organizations that, have some leadership, from other organizations and can step into BNSF Railway roles, the field operations management side of the house, hit the ground running and learn the railroad as we go along.
Yeah, okay. Most definitely. I think, what you can ask yourself if you're trying to determine, hey, this program sounds intriguing. Is it for me? So I think the first thing you should ask yourself is, do I have at least 3 years of supervisory experience in fast-paced operations, right? So a lot of us coming out of the military have that. So I think that's the first question you ask. And then the second question you ask is, well, do I really enjoy the tasks associated with leading others? And would I enjoy stepping back into a supervisory role in a new organization? And if you can answer yes to those two questions, then the program might very well be for you, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for folks with a number of years of demonstrated leadership experience who can step into these roles, and we can leverage that experience, and we can put you directly back in charge of, work groups of ours, and you can lead those folks from the front, use all that experience that you've accrued from the military or elsewhere, and really kind of lead us to accomplish our goals and our mission and our visions as a company. And the way that we break this program up is that we have 3 different operations departments that you could potentially find yourself working in that you could get to through the Experienced First Line Supervisor program. So just applying for the program, you actually have to apply for a specific department within the program. And those departments are engineering, mechanical, and transportation. And the type of job that you're going to be filling, it differs as far as day-to-day tasks, as the type of workforce that you're going to be in charge of, the type of operations that you're going to be leading. That's going to differ quite a bit, and we'll kind of go into that. But know that no matter which department you end up in, if you are a successful candidate and eventually hired into the EFLS program, you will be a leader in that department. You will be a first-line leader, boots on the ground, supervising individuals on a daily basis, a salaried mid-level manager. So know that no matter which department you end up in, that's the role that you're going to be filling within that specific department.
Let me point out a couple of key notes. That's Caleb brought up some outstanding points about the program. Although it's broken down into 3, major food groups as far as our departments, engineering, mechanical, and transportation, you will find yourselves all working together. Each one of the departments works together on a daily basis when you're out there in the field, if you will. So it's and that's really one of the great things about the program is that we bring you all in together. You're in a cohort group starting out, your first couple of weeks, and you get to know one another, because long after you're done with your training and your orientation, some of you will still be in contact. Many of you will still be in contact with one another. Now, I want to take a little deeper dive into each one of the departments, and I'll start with I'll let Caleb start with engineering. And then we'll go down into mechanical and transportation. But I do want to, I think you got it broken out, but
Right.
Just think of it like this. The engineering department takes care of, the infrastructure. And a lot of what we talk about, we're going to relate it. It's going to sound a little bit like military, because a lot of things are very similar to military. So our entire infrastructure, engineering, mechanical, maintenance of our rolling stock, the cars, the locomotives, and then transportation, those folks who operate the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, exactly. I think John makes a good point that they definitely do all work together. They just have somewhat separated tasks. But like he said, engineering, they're building and maintaining the infrastructure. The mechanical folks are making sure that our locomotives are up and running, and our transportation folks are responsible for the movement of the locomotives and the freight, and making sure that things and people get to their designated place on time and safely and efficiently. And then you'll notice right there at the bottom, we made sure and put it in bold letters, because this is a big aspect of the program. So if you're hired into this position, you have to be completely open to relocation upon hire, upon career progression, and upon needs of the business, because like I said, you're going to be a leader, you're going to be a supervisor, and this isn't one of those roles where you're going to be expected to sit in the same job, in the same role, in the same location for the entirety of your career. I think the expectation is going to be that you're going to develop yourself both professionally and personally, and you're going to be ready to take on roles of larger and larger responsibility as you progress in your career at BNSF. So, like I said, this isn't you're going to sit and do the same job for 10 years. You're going to sit there. You're going to grasp what you're initially responsible for, and then we're going to be looking at you to take on larger and larger roles, and that's going to include relocation. So again, similar to the military, but that's not for everybody. I'll be frank and say it's not. Not everyone is willing and able to say, "Hey, I'm 100% honestly open to relocation anywhere upon hire and upon career progression," and that's okay. That if that's not you. But to be successful in this program, that definitely is going to be a prerequisite.
Yeah, that's a reasonable expectation. And, Caleb hit it squarely on the head in that, there's a lot of us from the military that, we plan our exit and we say, we have several moves from the military under our belt, several PCSs, and we just want to, get somewhere and plant roots, and that's fine and dandy. And BNSF Railway, I mean, we have those types of positions. What we're saying is that the Experienced First Line Supervisor program is not that position. And there's no time frame that we can't sit here and tell you, and we won't tell you that, you're going to be in this location for X amount of time, and then you're going to move on. The only expectations in that we can tell you is your first few months of training like that. But, some of you will apply and are accepted, are going to move along and progress, in a faster manner than some others. And some departments have more to learn and different, aspects of that particular, job to learn. So it's going to take a little more time to learn it. And then some of you, are going to be able to, or may very possibly be able to learn, several different levels of your craft at one or two different locations. So, keep that in mind. Another big thing I do want to point out is this. We're not saying that you have to have been an engineer or come from the engineering field to be an experienced first line supervisor in the engineering group. We're not saying that you had to have come from a mechanical department or have been a mechanic to be a part of the EFLS mechanical, or that you have to come from the transportation industry to have to delve into the transportation. What we're saying is that, first and foremost, your leadership skills and abilities are going to, let you know whether or not you initially make a good fit for this program. And then each one of those segments, each one of those departments, based upon some of the skills and some of the degrees that you may or may not have, may segment you into any one of these departments, your comfort zone, if you will.
Definitely. So some of you, I'm hoping most of you that are viewing, at least watched the trailer that was attached to the online webinar. So there was about a 2-minute video that you could watch, and it really does a really good job of showing what someone in the engineering and specifically the signal group, which falls under engineering, could expect as far as kind of a day in the life of. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that yet, make sure you go back and you watch that video, because it really gives some great insight into a very good example of, if you came in through the EFLS engineering program, that's very similar to the tasks that you're going to be expected to do on a daily basis. Now, when you come in through engineering, you can be split off into 2 different tracks. Signal, like I said, which the video very explicitly kind of shows a good example of, but then you can also end up over in the track group, which does a similar task, although instead of the maintenance and installation of electronic components, they're more concerned with the installation and maintenance of the rail itself. So that's the major difference, but they both fall under the engineering group. And then lastly, you have the mechanical group, which we've mentioned. There's a video on our website. We're going to send all 3 of these links out to everyone that emailed us to attend the webinar. But this video is also on our careers website that just does a really good job of showing what a mechanical EFLS new hire could be expected to do, both during their first couple of years on the job, and then even as they kind of take positions of more and more authority later on in their career. So let's real quick go over the program outline. So I think we've kind of delved into what the program consists of, the different departments. So what does it look like? Let's say you asked yourself those couple of questions. You said, hey, I've got the prerequisite leadership experience. I've done similar things in my career with the military or in other industries. I'm interested. What does it look like if I decide to apply? So what's going to happen? We're not going to throw you to the wolves and expect you to lead railroad employees from day one with no training. Obviously, that wouldn't be too smart on our behalf. So what the program begins with is a pretty intense training program, including 2 weeks here at our company headquarters in Fort Worth, and that's going to really kind of introduce you to the company as a whole. 30,000 foot view. You're going to get to meet and greet and interact with some very high level leaders from each individual department. And like John said, you're going to be together with everybody, mechanical, engineering, transportation. Everybody's going to be there together learning about the company, because it's going to be everybody's really two first weeks on the job. Following that, we're going to send you out to Kansas City, and that's where your technical training is going to take place. And you think of that for our military folks, you think of that as your MOS school or your AIT, where now we're kind of diving into the technical aspects of what you're going to be doing on the railroad, and so that you know what to look for and you know what to expect. And then from there, you're going to have some associated on-the-job field training, both probably in Kansas City and out on that final at the location that you selected in the early stages of your application process. And I got to cover the fact that during this time you are an employee. So day one, when you show up in Fort Worth, you are on the payroll. You are a BNSF employee. Everything is paid for. Your travel is covered. Your meals and expenses, if traveling, are covered. So that's not anything that's going to be expected of you. You are going to be a full-time employee day one when you show up here in Fort Worth.
Yeah, I think you covered it on that. So benefits. Let's talk a little bit about benefits, and I'll hit the high-level view of it. Is this health? So medical, dental, vision. So your health care, BNSF has opportunities for you to select, several different programs. 401k, specifically with the FLS program or the exempt employees, exempt being the officers of the business. BNSF Railway matches 75 cents for every $1 up to 6% that you put in. And then for the rest of the workforce, the 401k is available if they choose to use it. BNSF has a pension program, and we have railroad retirement. And railroad retirement is very different from what you are accustomed to in Social Security. We are an extremely military-friendly organization, and we understand that, within our workforce and you out there who are transitioning, some of you, like the captain here, is going to continue to serve in the Guard or Reserves. And if that is so, then we have something called make-whole pay. Basically, if the difference between what you're making at BNSF Railway is higher than what you make when you go see Uncle Sam, that could be a year, that could be weekend drill, that can be AT, doesn't matter. Then BNSF Railway, if you meet those standards, will make the difference up in pay, so that there's no gap. Military leave of absence, whenever you go out there, military leave of absence without the use of any of your vacation time. Career development, that's ongoing work. That's nothing different from what you know in the military. Going to continue to career progress you. You're going to know your paths and what it takes to move up. Tuition reimbursement. Some of us choose to obtain higher education. We know that you have the GI Bill, post 9/11 GI Bill, so on and so forth. But BNSF Railway has a tuition reimbursement program and a very huge employee discount program that takes its own website. So a lot of benefits there.
Most definitely. And let me draw, a special attention to the fact that there's 3 retirement programs that you would be taking part of potentially at BNSF: the 401k, the pension, and the railroad retirement. You don't have to select one or the other, but you get to partake in all 3. So a pretty phenomenal benefit in and of itself, just speaking of retirement specifically. So real quick, we're not going to dive too deep into it, but knowing that most people aren't too familiar with railroad retirement and how it differs from Social Security, or most people aren't even aware that something called railroad retirement exists. Basically, high-level view is the fact that it is a benefit that was set up by the government a long time ago. And what happens is that if you come and work for the railroad, any railroad, you are basically put in a different bucket, if you will, from those that are part of the Social Security program, which is the vast majority of American workers. Basically, like I said, to to kind of take a high level view is that the way that it differs is that your otherwise what would be Social Security tax does go up by 3 to 4%. So people that pay into railroad retirement do pay a higher what would be tax on their paycheck. The major differences, though, are that instead of simply matching your contributions like Social Security employers do, the railroad almost doubles what you contribute to your railroad retirement. And then that amount accrues over a period of time that you work here at the railroad. And then when you get ready to retire, on average, railroad benefits far exceed what would otherwise be drawn from Social Security when you get ready to retire. There is a very robust website ran by the Railroad Retirement Board. It's called rrb.gov, Romeo Bravo.gov. And that is the full-blown kind of website that covers the very detailed nuances of how the program works. So definitely a huge benefit to anyone that works at the railroad. So I definitely encourage you to consider that when you're thinking about whether or not employment with the rail industry is for you. Definitely consider that as a huge benefit that comes with employment here.
So the next slide talks about the BNSF application process. You know, regardless of how you learned about BNSF Railway, whether it was through the recruiters, through the TAP office, whether or not you came to us via a different website, or you even saw our jobs on, say, Career Builders, everyone must visit the BNSF Careers website that you see there at www.bnsf.com/careers to apply. Now, we specifically have a military transitioning military button right there for you, and we encourage you to click on that tab, take a look at some of our frequently asked questions and some of our recruiter tips that will help you as you move throughout the employment process with BNSF Railway. Now, so what will happen is, we want to go through
Yeah.
So what happens is, you know, once you've decided that, hey, you know, I want to apply at BNSF Railway, I kind of want to break this up. If you are currently still serving in the military, and you are getting ready to transition, we typically like for you to start submitting your applications about 90 days out from the date that you can start working. So about 90 days out from transition leave, if you're taking that. And that is because our application process, our onboarding process, the entire process from the time that you submit your application to the time that you apply could take about 90 days. Whereas with the Experienced First Line Supervisor program, we have specific dates that you can target that, but generally about 90 days out. If you are already out of the service, then again, you can, you're wide open to start applying at that point. Now, what happens is, once you physically apply for a position, you find that job on the website, you click apply. What will happen is, if you already have a profile generated in our website, you've applied for a position in the past, your candidate profile is going to pop up. We would love for you to go down the list of your information and ensure that everything that's listed in your candidate profile is exactly the way you want it. It's right, and because essentially that is your application. You should fill out each section of that application to a 100% satisfaction, because failure to do that could slow your process in getting hired at BNSF Railway. As Caleb mentioned, once you submit your application, there's going to be several entities that, if you're selected to move forward in the process, that'll be contacting you on behalf of BNSF Railway.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll go through that specifically. So let's say you're at least initially interested in taking a look at the job posting and kind of reading through the job description and learning more. Basically, what you're going to do is, if you visit our homepage and you scroll down, you're going to see the picture that's right in front of you. Bottom left corner, Field Operations Management, is where you're going to want to click on to get to these specific job postings. Now, you can also click on Transitioning Military. You're probably going to find them in there as well, but they're going to be mixed in with some other jobs. If you click on Field Operations Management, I think there's only 4 or 5 jobs listed, 2 of which are EFLS. So what you would do is you would click on that job posting. Like I said, there's 2 separate ones, one for engineering, one for mechanical. Click on each one or click on the one that most interests you. What we do is we're very upfront about a lot of details about each job that we post. So when you click on, let's say, EFLS engineering, for example, you're right there. You're going to see the start date. You're going to see the starting pay. You're going to see the possible locations. And then you're going to be able to read through the duties and responsibilities that you're going to be expected to carry out if eventually hired. So that's going to give you another really good insight into, hey, is this job for me? Does it sound like something I would want to do? Does the pay meet with what I would need to make as I transition? You know, all those basic things. And then even more importantly, or maybe just as important, what we list are the basic and preferred qualifications. So those are questions that you need to ask yourself. Do I meet each and every one of these? Now, preferred qualifications you don't necessarily have to meet, but we do like to see them, and that's going to make you an even more attractive candidate. But you're going to want to read through those and ask yourself at each one, hey, is this me? And if your answer is overwhelmingly yes, then you're definitely going to want to apply, and you're going to know that you probably are an attractive candidate to us for this program. Following your review of the job description, if you say, this is me, I want to do this, this sounds like something that would be a perfect fit for me and or my family, you're going to click the Apply Now button, big orange button right there on the right that's easily viewable. And then like John said, if you already have a profile, it's going to ask you to sign in and your profile is going to pop up. You will still have to complete a specific application for each job that you apply for. So just because you have a profile doesn't mean that you've applied. We do have that question sometimes. You will have to click on the job posting just like I've walked through, click Apply Now, sign in or set up your profile for those of you who don't have a profile, and then complete that application for that specific job. It's going to allow you the ability to upload your resume, which is a requirement for this position. We must see your resume so that we know if you're a good fit or not. Following your application submission and your resume being uploaded, after you apply, if you meet the basic qualifications for the position, you will be emailed an online leadership assessment test. It will come directly to your email. You will have 5 days to complete that exam. It usually takes about 60 to 75 minutes to complete. But you must complete that as part of your application process.
I do want to point out, as you're completing your application, you're going to get a questionnaire that are really some qualifying questions, and some of you may not see that mandatory online questionnaire that Caleb just referred to. And if you don't, that means that you were not successful in the application process for whatever reason. We don't have the answer of why you were not successful. So if you receive an immediate email, once you submit your application that says, thank you, essentially a thank you, but no thank you, that's what that is. Something you failed to answer correctly or appropriately on the application. Now, like Caleb said, if everything works out the way we want it to work out and you want it to work out, we're going to receive your application and you will receive an email confirmation that your application has been submitted. And then you, like Caleb said, you'll receive that email that requests you take that mandatory online assessment. And we can't stress that enough. If you do not take that mandatory assessment within the given 5 days, calendar days, then there's nothing that we can do for you. Okay, you are simply not considered for that particular position. Equally important is this: after you take that assessment, if you receive an email that says thank you but no thank you, we don't know why you have passed or failed. We don't have it's a pass or fail basis. We don't grade it. It's computer generated. So if you fail that online assessment, then you have to wait 6 months before you can reapply for that particular position. All other positions on the website is open and available for you to apply for. Very important.
Sure. Very important information. And then following that, after your successful submission of your application, you're just going to want to monitor your email very closely. If you're successful and we want to talk to you some more, then we're going to be contacting you for a phone interview. That's going to be the next step. So you're going to want to make sure that you're monitoring your phone, voicemail, email, all that good stuff so that we can be sure and get a hold of you.
Very good.
And then
here's kind of the timeline and we're talking experienced first line supervisor, folks. Here's the timeline for this position. So job postings, like Caleb said, are out there right now. However, they won't be out there, forever. So again, you got to determine whether or not the start date and the dates that we're getting ready to talk about, whether or not you can meet those. Because if you cannot meet those specific dates, there's no adjusting those dates. These are hard target dates. And then you don't want to apply for the experienced first line supervisor. So here it is. So jobs are posted now. They're going to come down. We're going to take them down probably in the next, few weeks, or so. You apply and you successfully, make it through all the way up to the phone screen. And what's going to happen is you will receive an email that invites you to attend what we call the hiring event. The hiring event takes place here at corporate headquarters or vicinity corporate headquarters, Fort Worth, Texas. So regardless of what your location is right now or where you're applying from, you have to travel from where you are on the 21st and 22nd of October. That's when we're going to hold that hiring event. It's a 2-day event.
And that's going to be paid for by us.
We pay for it. It's off of our dime. That's great, isn't it? So after the 2-day event, you go home, and like Caleb said, in about a week's time frame, you should hear something back. Either way, you're going to get something back from BNSF Railway. If, in fact, you made it to the next step, that next step will be in the form of a conditional offer of employment. Once you start the conditional offer of employment and sign it and get that back to us, that will then start what we call your onboarding process. So basically your background check. Several entities will be contacting you on behalf of BNSF Railway, and it's very, very important that each and every one of you reply back and be very, very responsive to those entities in a timely manner, because failure to do so could drop you out of the process. That process could take anywhere. Some people clear within 2 weeks. Some people, it takes 3 months to clear. It just depends on how much stuff you have for them to check. Some of the things that you can do that will help you out. If you're already out of the military and you have a DD-214, you should have that readily available, the member 4 copy. If not, if you're a recent transitioning veteran or you're still in, the last copy of your LES, which you should be able to have access to, we'll be able to use that. Copies of your medical records. We don't know if they're going to ask for them, but you should have those readily available. Okay? Those things, all of those things will help you. Now, once you're done and you successfully negotiated the background check and you're all clear, the start date is 25 January 2016. It's very, very important. You need to know that that is your start date. At that point, you are a BNSF employee, and I recall Caleb saying that. So you will spend time away from home, folks. There's entities, there's times that the company allows you time to go back home and visit your family throughout training, but you'll get a more robust timeline, time schedule, if you will, training schedule, as we call it. Once you start, but once you start on 25 January, you're officially a BNSF employee.
So let's just real quickly before we wrap this up and then just answer some of the Q&A questions. What are we looking for, and how can you be a little bit more successful if you're trying to ask yourself what we're looking for on the resume? So first and foremost is that basic qualification of the demonstrated leadership in fast-paced operations. So that's the first thing we're looking for. Does this does this candidate have demonstrated leadership, and in what facet do they have that demonstrated leadership? More specifically, if you have related experience, while not specifically required, it's definitely going to make you stick out and make you a more attractive candidate if you've been doing things that are somewhat similar. So for engineering, for instance, if we see supervisory construction, civil engineering, electronic installation or repair experience, that's what's going to stick out to us because you've been doing things very similar to what you're going to be expected to do here. Likewise, with the mechanical folks, supervisory experience with mechanical repair operations, it's going to stick out because it's going to be a lot similar to what you're going to be expected to do here. If you have that experience, make sure it's highlighted. Make sure it's the first thing we see, so that we can quickly assess your resume and application for further processing.
I do want to point out one thing, Cap. Very important when you're filling out that application. Try to and your resume. Try to stay away from the military jargon, the nomenclatures, because what's going to happen with your information is Caleb and I will review that information, but essentially we'll pass that information on to other entities within those respective departments. And most of them will not understand what a 95 Bravo is, a 12 Bravo, an 11 Bravo. And you have to put that in civilian terms. So the more you do that on your application and your resume, the better off, your application will be.
Most definitely. And then lastly, so most of you already have this email address. You emailed us for the link to view the webinar. But if you don't, that's who we are, John Wesley and Caleb Robertson, militarycareers@bnsf.com. That's how you can reach us for additional questions that you may have if and when you do get ready to apply, or if you just have other questions in general. So
answer some questions.
Yeah, let's go back and let's see if we got any questions. I know we had 2 to begin with.
We got a bunch of them now.
Yeah, we got quite a few questions. So let's
start.
Let's scroll down. I know Brian submitted ones before we got ready. So Brian, let me actually select this so everybody can see it. So Brian asked, what are the main differences between the engineering and mechanical positions? Brian, great question. Hopefully we somewhat covered it, but the main difference, engineering is you're more of a construction supervisor, basically. So you're out there supervising the construction and maintenance of our rail network, whereas mechanical, you are supervising the maintenance and repair of our locomotives and rail cars. So different setting. You'd be in, with engineering, you're out on the road. You're in the weather, making sure things happen. Whereas mechanical, you most likely are in the diesel shop or in the car shop, supervising those workers as they work through the mechanical repair of the machinery. Great question. Next question.
Is that Brian also?
I believe this one is also Brian.
So Brian says, thanks again, Brian. At what point in the process will an applicant know the location they will be assigned? Great question. So what happens with the Experienced First Line Supervisor program is once you've successfully submitted your application, made it through the phone screen, and we've invited you to Fort Worth to attend the 2-day hiring process, that's when we're going to present you with all of the available locations for that particular work group that you're working in, mechanical, transportation, or engineering. In this case, transportation is not involved this time. But we will present the locations at that point in time, and we'll ask you for your top 3 locations. Generally, we can get you your top location. Okay, so that's when you'll know.
And Brian again asks, what are the different character traits that you see in engineering and mechanical positions? I would say if we're talking about the character traits of the individuals that are going to fill them, I would say similar work experience. So being outdoors, all weather, 24/7 operations environments where you're a first line leader, that speaks well to the engineering department. Supervisory experience in maintenance or even logistical operations, that speaks to the mechanical department. So just the ability, number one, that you're a people leader. Number one, that that safety is your number one priority. We're looking for folks that lead with safety at the forefront of their mind, and making sure that their workers are always the safest as they can be, and then that things are being done in the most efficient and capable manner. But really, like we said in the beginning, we're looking for leaders. So that's really the strongest trait that we're looking for, is that experienced people leader.
Yeah, I mean, Cap hit it dead on the nose. The underlying attribute there is your leadership ability and your ability to lead safely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Wendy asks, I see the important message about relocation. After 20 years of service, I am ready to make Fort Worth my home. Are there positions available in Fort Worth specifically? I did not see any first-line supervising positions on the BNSF website. Very good and very common question, Wendy. We are headquartered in Fort Worth, so we have a very large presence here, obviously. However, looking at the map, right, looking at the expansive operations across the western 2/3 of the U.S., the vast majority of our operations roles are out elsewhere in other locations other than Fort Worth. The vast majority of the positions that you'll see in Fort Worth are support functions: law, HR, marketing, operations research, things of that nature that aren't necessarily part of customer support, IT, things that aren't necessarily part of the operation side of the house, but that all support the operation side of the house. However, we do have a smaller yard here in Alliance, just north of town. So we do have conductors and mechanics and electricians that work here. Just compared to the number of those folks that we have out in the field, is relatively small. But if you're specifically interested in Fort Worth, what I would say is, monitor that website closely, because we're always posting new jobs. And if and when something does post for Fort Worth that meets with your background and experience, you're going to want to jump on it, because it's not going to be on the website all that long. And number two, you can sign up for what we call job alerts. So those are little things that you can set up as part of your candidate profile on bnsf.com/careers. And you set up the parameters. So you can say, I'm interested in jobs with these keywords in Fort Worth. And then you'll get emails as we post those jobs, so that you're alerted, so that you don't have to go back to the website every single day.
Let me touch on something there, Cap, because you and that's a very good question, Wendy. And this is really for everybody out there. The Experienced First Line Supervisor program, and we can't stress that enough, is that program that that's out there in the field, if you will. So kind of go into this understanding that your work as an experienced first line supervisor is going to be away from the corporate environment. So that's huge.
Yeah, there's definitely some opportunities to work in Fort Worth outside of the EFLS program. The dispatcher trainee position, for example. You just got to find the right fit when we are hiring for here in Fort Worth. Is all it boils down to. It looks like that's all of our questions that we had submitted. It's 12:53, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. But you've got our contact information. Hopefully this has been somewhat insightful, giving you a little bit of insight into both the company and to the program that we're looking to hire for now. But there are a number of other opportunities out there, and there will continue to be a number of other opportunities that we'll be hiring for on the website. Just make sure that you make yourself very familiar with it, set up that profile, set up those job alerts, and then just monitor and apply when you find that right fit.
One last thing I do want to mention is that the Experienced First Line Supervisor postings that we have posted right now, that's one of two postings that we will post. Some of you that tuned in today may not meet your timeline for these first postings and this first start date of 25 January. And if it does not, and you get out later in 2016, we're going to post another posting sometime around January and February for the second EFLS class that will start somewhere around the June, July timeframe. So if in fact that may be a better timeline fit for you, then you do not want to apply for what you see posted right now, because you won't meet that timeline. Okay. We just wanted to point that out, that there will be a second class in 2016 for those of you that you may be ready for that. And then some of you are, get out even later in 2016. So around the October, the November timeframe. Well, that's generally when we start posting the next year. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, most definitely.
And we thank you all for tuning in.
Yeah, it's been good. Contact us with any questions that you may have. Visit the website. Thanks so much. Best of luck. And we hope to see your application soon.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.